Taylorism is a really important concept for thinking about both the past, present, and future of work. The term Taylorism comes from Frederick Taylor, who was an important figure in the history of what was called scientific management. It was the study of, the detailed study of work, of particular forms of work, to see exactly how workers did the work, how much time it took them to complete different tasks. And it was used by managers to kind of both speed up and intensify the work that workers were doing, and to kind of take knowledge that only workers had about what work required and give it over to managers. So very famous example of this was applied in Henry Ford's car factories, where these kind of scientific management principles were brought in to study exactly how the different aspects of car production worked, and to kind of take that knowledge and put it on the side of managers so they could know roughly how long it should take for workers to complete the various tasks associated with making a car. Today, people speak about a new trend, which they call digital Taylorism. And it's kind of a contradictory concept. On the one hand, it's really true that in the platform economy, we have now algorithms taking on the role of managers. And to some extent, you can see this as a kind of acceleration of Taylorism, because these algorithms on people's smartphones, it enables these companies to track workers' activity down to the most minute detail that no human observer would have been able to achieve in an earlier period. And the same is true at Amazon warehouses, where workers wear little devices or carry around devices that track their every movement through the warehouse and kind of compare it to the optimal amount of time that their movement should take. So you have this kind of acceleration of Taylorism, sort of observing and counting and calculating all of a worker's motions and activities to better understand the work and to make it possible to extract the maximum amount of profit from that work. On the other hand, what's a little contradictory about it to call it Taylorism is that historically Taylorism was all about empowering middle managers, that is, the layers of management that interacted with and kind of watched over workers and told them when they were working too slow, or handled their pay and these kind of questions. Whereas today, the whole point of algorithmic management is to try to replace a lot of those managers with computers and with algorithms. So, for example, a taxi company has to have a lot of managers to manage all of the different drivers who work for the company. Uber just has an algorithm that does a lot of that work automatically without any human intervention. And that's something that people sometimes like about those jobs, at least initially, is that platform jobs, you can work on your own pace. You don't have to deal with a kind of manager breathing down your neck, watching everything you do. You don't have to deal with scheduling issues. At least in America, it's a big problem that workers are often told at the last minute that they have to come in on their day off. Companies are often purposefully understaffed. Understaffing is a way of ensuring that everyone's working at a very high intensity all the time. So compared to dealing with human managers, algorithmic managers can at first seem to offer a really high degree of freedom. But what people find over time is that because the algorithms collect so much data from them and have such insidious ways of influencing and kind of coercing in the end different kinds of behavior from them, that there's something almost maybe more disturbing in the long run about this form of algorithmic management. When people talk about the technologies of the future, they often focus on technologies like digital surveillance tools, all of these ways that workers are now being managed by algorithms and machines. And so when they think about the future of work, it looks really dark. And I think there's a lot of reasons to worry about that. I mean, a lot of our future does seem to be that our managers are going to know every keystroke we make on our computers, especially if we work at home. And they're going to know exactly where you are if you're a delivery service driver, and how you're making routes and what that compares to the kind of what they think the best route is. But I think that there's also a lot in contemporary technologies that could actually make workers' lives better and make work more satisfying. It's just that a lot of these technologies aren't really going to be implemented without a struggle. So I'll give you an example. There's a nursing collective in the Netherlands that handles home health care. So they go into neighborhoods and they work with older people who can't take care of themselves and who need some assistance. And this company, it's all worker run. So all the collectives of nurses are actually run by the nurses themselves. They go into a neighborhood and they start to work with people there. And while they're working, they might encounter a disease or a kind of difficulty with a patient or a client that they hadn't experienced before. And this company has an intranet. It has an internal internet that it uses so nurses can communicate with each other. And they can say, hey, I'm encountering this patient who has a disease I've never studied. Does anyone know about this or has worked with people with these diseases before and can help? And so instead of using technologies to kind of watch over workers from above to surveil them, here we have an example of using technology to allow workers to connect with each other and learn from each other rather than trying to take the knowledge from them and putting it on the side of management. This is an example where workers are actually sharing knowledge with each other and they're able to kind of grow together. I think a lot of the time, what we should be thinking about when we think about digital futures of work is thinking about the ways these technologies, not only can they take decisions out of people's hands, which can be useful sometimes, but a lot of other times what they really enable us to do is to make decisions together in a new way. And it's that kind of communicative part of the technology, which actually would really empower workers and connect them to one another, that I see as essential to any positive vision of the future for work.